As crazy as this sounds, we are literally almost finished with the first 9 weeks. So this is part 2 of Persia, India, and China, and all we have left is China plus the SOL released questions to go over to help everyone with test-taking strategies. So what you're looking at, this is Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'm flying over a river valley in China. So I just wanted you to get a look at the landscape. So remember we talked about river valleys providing a safe place for civilizations. So if you had a nomadic group of people who had not reached the Neolithic era yet, if they're just wandering around looking for food, water, and shelter, a valley provides a safer location. Look at how difficult it would be to cross those mountains to get somewhere. It could be done, but would it be worth your time? That's the question. So I just wanted to share this with you. For whatever reason, I can't find the Great Wall of China in Flight Simulator. It's like a big conspiracy or something because it's not there. Some people are wondering if the Chinese government made them delete it. That's kind of funny. I'm joking, not serious. But it is a real thing that you can't find it in Flight Simulator, so that's kind of crazy. But anyway, we're going to get on with China and then on to the test questions. Okay, the classical Chinese civilization. You learned about the Chinese civilization last unit in the ancient river valleys. So now we're going to talk about them a little bit more. So classical China was centered on the Henghe River. Some people refer to it as the Yellow River, but it's geographically isolated, meaning it's a safe place. It's hard for outsiders to get to. Over time, though, as China gets bigger, invaders from the north enter and cause problems. So the Great Wall of China was built for China's protection. But that's an easy kind of thing to remember. Anytime you see something about a wall, it's about protection. People build walls for protection. So the first guy that's credited with unifying China, his name is Qin Shi Huangdi. Now it's spelled with a Q-I-N. Some people say Qin Shi Huangdi. But I was taught that it's Qin Shi Huangdi, and Qin becomes the land of Qin, which is China. Now, that's what I was taught. I don't speak Chinese, so I really don't know, but that's one way you can think of it. So this is considered to be the first Chinese emperor because he unified many territories through war. Because of invaders, Qin Shi Huangdi is the guy who had the Great Wall built. No, he didn't physically go build it, but he's the one who ordered it to be built. So another important thing to understand is that in China, rulers served under what's called a mandate of heaven. As long as their rule was just, they would continue to rule. The word just, like the word justice, it means fair or fairness. So again, Chinese people believed that if their ruler would rule fairly, they would stay in power. Then beyond that, you have dynasties of rulers, successions of ruling families. For example, that's like hereditary rulers that we learned about previously. But again, their families, the father dies, the son takes over. So China is ruled by this multitude of dynasties. The main thing that I would stress more than anything is Qin Shi Huangdi becoming basically the first emperor of China, but also the mandate of heaven. When you see the mandate of heaven, think of Chinese rulers. They had to be fair or just, as in justice. The other part of that is the Great Wall of China. Why was it built? For protection. Same thing you could also deal with. A question would talk about, for example, the walls of Jericho. Why did Jericho have walls? For protection. So the Silk Roads, notice that it's plural. There's an S at the end. These are trade routes. It's not just one. Some people will say the Silk Road, but it's not just one and it's not made of silk. What it does, it's a trade route or system of trade routes that facilitates trade from China to Rome. The Romans wanted silk and the Chinese wanted products that the Romans built. So they connect, and it's not like somebody from Rome travels all the way to China. As you'll see in this graphic, it's a system of trade routes that connects these two areas. So if you see a possibility, there's an SOL question that could say which trade route would connect these two areas. That's the Silk Roads. And the next graphic coming up in a second will show it's not just one trade route like that. It's not like an interstate system. there's various trade routes breaking off, going off in different directions. So you can see the two green areas, that's China and the Mediterranean basin, but the red lines are going off. So people are traveling the Silk Roads and they're breaking off into different directions. And you can read all the time about archaeological sites found off of these Silk Road routes that have all kinds of interesting goods and things that are found. That's how we know what was traded, because of archaeologists, which is pretty fascinating. So you guys are lucky because now we have the Nintendo Switch, which is a little bit more advanced than the PlayStation Portable. And that's what a PSP is, a PlayStation Portable. Then they had the Vita and so on. So a little outdated, but you need to remember, see my PSP. See my PSP. And you can see the little picture there of a PlayStation Portable. What that stands for is when you're talking about China, because remember, PlayStation Portable, where is it made? In China. There's 4 things that China is famous for producing. First is a civil service system. Now this sounds complicated, but what this is, we kind of have this in some instances today in the United States. But this is so instead of the king or emperor hiring his brother, who might be an idiot, maybe not, but hiring them to work for the government, a test was established to make sure that in order to work for the government, you had to be qualified. So a civil service system is a testing system to make sure that you're qualified to work for the government, that you're just not handed a job because you know someone important. Then we have paper. Everybody knows what paper is. The first paper was most likely rice paper. We still have rice paper today in arts and crafts stores. Silk, again, made from silkworms. You can see the little picture there. They would soak the cocoons and literally someone would unwrap the strands by hand. Last is porcelain. Porcelain is a lot of different things. It's a cup and saucer, like in the picture. It could be your grandma's fine china, but the funniest one is a toilet. Your toilet is made of porcelain, the bottom part of it. So that's something you see every day. Many sinks are also made of porcelain, but these products came from China. But I'm going to give you this one piece of advice. Throughout this whole course, if you're asked where did something come from and you truly don't know, your best guess is always China. The vast majority of products that we are introduced to through World History 1 are Chinese goods that they created. Okay, and last in terms of the notes, this is really difficult for some people. You have 2 philosophies. They're not religions, but they're ways of thinking. A philosophy is the way that people think. So Confucianism and Taoism. Taoism is pronounced like a D, D-O-W-I-S-M. Some people write it that way, but this is the correct way that it's supposed to be. So on the left, you have Confucianism. It's the belief that humans are good, not bad, respect for elders. I have a big red star by the Code of Harmony. It's still used today, an emphasis on learning and ancestor worship. Now, you notice in the middle there's the yin and the yang. These are representing the opposites of Taoism and Confucianism. So over on the right, Taoism is all about humility, simple life, and I have 2 stars by harmony with nature. So in my time as a teacher, anytime I see something about Taoism, it always focuses on harmony with nature. And Confucianism, the way that I would teach my students, a simple way to think about it is, Confucius was a person, he's a philosopher, and he's telling people how they should live their life. Not really, but I'm trying to help you think about this. So if you look at the list of things associated with Confucianism, humans are good, they're not bad. Confucius is telling you that. He's telling you to respect your elders. He's telling you to live in harmony with everyone else. He's telling you to get an education, and he's telling you to worship your ancestors. Now again, this is my kindergarten way of helping you to, when you're reading a test question, to say, is that Confucianism or is that Taoism? Taoism, on the other hand, just remember, it's harmony with nature. So in reality, when you look at Confucianism versus Taoism, it's 2 different lines of thought, but they go together. That's the yin and the yang. Confucianism is about your relationships with other people. For example, how you view and how you treat people. Even the Code of Harmony, it's that you're looking out for the whole. You think about the benefits for everyone, not just yourself. Then you flip over to Taoism. That's more about the bigger picture, the bigger meaning within the universe. So for example, harmony with nature, taking care of the planet, a simple life. You don't need all kinds of excess. You don't need to spend a whole lot of money. But humility, that's one a lot of people don't understand. Humility is when you don't take credit for things yourself. You give other people credit. You boost up other people. You're humble. For example, if your favorite basketball player after a game, he just scored 50 points and the person interviewing him says, how does it feel? And he's like, I'm the greatest. That's not very humble. But if he says, I couldn't have done it without all my teammates, that's showing humility. Okay, so we have the first release test question. We're going to look up at the top. It has a graphic. It says the Indus River system. The Indus, that's India, right? And what I'm going to do just to help you out is I'm going to draw a diamond shape. I haven't even looked at the answer choices, so I'm not sure what direction it's going, but I do the diamond. That helps me locate that it's India. So now it says, which empire is associated with the river system? So the Gupta Empire, we know that's India. Chinese Empire, China. Phoenician Empire, that's Mediterranean Sea. And Babylonian, that's associated with Hammurabi, and we really didn't even talk about that. You're not really needing to know about him. So the key here, this is a super simple question. If you remember, in India, there are two empires, the Gupta and the Mauryan. The Mauryan Empire is associated with Buddhism, the spread of Buddhism in particular, and Gupta, that's the golden age. Remember the zero, don't get a zero, don't get a Gupta. All right, next up, we're going to look at the four answer choices. We have Hinduism, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism. So we've heard of all of those. Reading through them one point or another, you've seen them. So now we go look at the question. The main thing is they're all religions. The Vedas and Upanishads are the sacred writings of which religion? Hinduism. So the Torah is for Judaism. Zoroastrianism, we didn't learn of any. And Buddhism, Buddha has 4 chins because he ate too much. 4 Noble Truths, Eightfold Path. All right, next we have 4 answer choices as there's no graphic. So it says, obeyed the priests, controlled the army, governed as a just ruler. Just. That's a word that we keep hearing, just. And then last, conquered new territories. So whenever I see a word that I know that's been harped on, I kind of focus on that. So already I'm thinking, what was associated with just? So right there with the question, the mandate of heaven, a Chinese emperor could remain in power as long as he what? As he ruled as a just ruler. So pretty simple, that's C. Hopefully you could kind of eliminate the other ones because we never have talked about anybody having to obey the priest. That was never a point of emphasis. We've never talked about somebody specifically controlling the army. That would be a general, obviously. All right, so we have a graphic up at the top. You only lose what you cling to. That's not really important. What is important is who said that. That's Siddhartha Gautama. You should know that. He is the leader of Buddhism. He's Buddha. So now we look at the answer choices. Hindus, Zoroastrianism, or Zoroastrian, That's a tongue twister. Buddhists and Jews. So this quotation best represents the religious views of who? Buddhists, obviously, because Buddha, he's giving a quote. Okay, we have a question with no graphics, so we're going to look at our 4 answer choices first. We have Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. So we've heard about all of those, and we've talked about them in great deal. So the question says, living in harmony with nature, that's important, is an important part of Chinese culture, primarily because of what? That would be Taoism. Remember, there's one thing about Taoism that you really should know. Harmony with nature. Taoism. Okay, next question. No graphics, so we're going to look at the 4 choices. East Asia and the Mediterranean Basin, Western Europe and East Africa, Southeast Africa, and Northern Europe and Mediterranean Basin. The first one's the only one that makes any sense to me. East Asia to Mediterranean Basin, that sounds like the Silk Roads. And yeah, when I go back and look at the question last at the end, it says which regions were connected by the Silk Roads. Now, East Asia, that's a fancy way of saying China. Hopefully you know your north, south, east, and west. China is to the far east. And the Mediterranean Basin, that's just like saying Rome. Okay, another question with no graphics, so look at the answer choices. Religious oligarchy. No, have not talked about it. The word oligarchy is used for Sparta, next unit in ancient Greece. Republic is Rome. We'll talk about that later when we get to Rome, right after Greece. Imperial bureaucracy. I remember that. That's a tough one. Some of you might have trouble remembering it, but it's Persia. And then last, democracy, Greece. We get to that next unit. So which type of government was used in the Persian Empire? And that's imperial bureaucracy. Okay, we have a graphic, so let's look at it. We have priests and scholars with a fancy name, rulers and warriors, again, another group for merchants and traders. Then we have peasants, and then we have the untouchables. That seems very familiar. I know you've seen a graphic that looks very similar to that. So what does this diagram represent? So let's take a look at each choice. Is it a class system in China? Is it a political system in Greece? A feudal system of Japan? Or a caste system in India? Yes, it's the caste system. Remember the untouchables, the outcasts? They're out of the caste system. Okay, next we have 4 answer choices. Laws of the Old Testament, that's familiar. Decrees of the Upanishads, the 5 pillars, and the Eightfold Path. So all of these are familiar. So let's look at the question. Buddhists achieve enlightenment by following what? Buddha. Oh, we have a kindergarten saying for Buddha. Buddha has 4 chins because he ate too much. And there it is for J, the Eightfold Path. But what I'm writing up there is to help you. The Old Testament is associated with the Hebrews. The decrees of the Upanishads, remember the Vedas and Upanishads? That's Hinduism. The 5 pillars, we haven't done that yet, but we're getting to it. That's Islam. And the Eightfold Path. Buddha has 4 chins because he ate too much. I'm telling you, all these stupid kindergarten sayings are going to help. Okay, so I know my kindergarten sayings are really cheesy, but there's a point. The more you hear them, the more you're going to remember. So if you look at the answer choices, the concept of zero, don't get a Gupta. The concept of zero, I keep saying don't get a Gupta. Long-lasting roads, the production of porcelain, that's from China. And wind-powered boats, sailboats, yeah, but haven't really talked about them. So looking at the question, the Gupta Empire. Gupta 0. So simple. Again, cheesy way to learn it, but there you go. All right, next we have a graphic. Live in harmony with nature. I know that already. Have a simple life and exercise humility in all things. So religious beliefs of ancient ? So again, harmony with nature, you should know. Which region best replaces the question mark? Is it China? Is it Greece, Egypt, or Mesopotamia? China. Because remember, that's Taoism. You have Confucianism and Taoism, which are opposites represented by the yin and the yang. All right, last question. No graphic. The Code of Hammurabi, Mandate of Heaven, the 12 Tables, and the 10 Commandments. So all of those are legitimate answers. We're going to cover them all at some point. So looking at the question, the ruling authority of China, China's ancient dynasties, was based on the Mandate of Heaven. Code of Hammurabi is in Mesopotamia. The 12 Tables is in Rome. 10 Commandments is for the Hebrews. So again, working through it. So one thing I'm going to say is it seems like I'm going really fast through these test questions. And that's true. I'm trying to keep the length of these videos reasonable. You can stop, pause, rewind, and watch these again. And the more you're familiar with this information, hopefully it's going to settle in as you go. You should have learned some of this in class already. This is just remediation. This is just to help bring it back to you. But I can say more than anything else, if you watch the introduction videos multiple times, meaning about the religions and the geography, that's probably what most students are the weakest at, is the religions and the geography. So that's going to help you a great deal. So good luck. Moving on to the second 9 weeks, which is ancient Greece, ancient Rome, etc. And that's probably my favorite 9 weeks. We're going to see some Assassin's Creed Odyssey and back to Assassin's Creed Origins again.